I guess we could take some question and answer. That doesn't mean I have the answers. So if you got any questions which I can't answer, then you can come to the mic. But again, I would say I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything, so don't expect any brilliant answers from me. I have always believed, and I've said this many times, always trust the person looking for the truth. Don't ever trust the one who's found it.
Jordan, you've shown that in the Old Testament many times they use the word Elohim. Is there ever a time they use the word Eli, representing a single God?
Yeah, quite a few times. But they were usually that was applied to angels or Jewish high priests. They were called Eli's, and so sometimes when that word was used, it was talking about angels, a particular angel, or one of the Jewish high priests also had the same title. And so that's a whole subject. I mean, you can get into the whole subject of the Hebrew language and the word God as opposed to gods, as opposed to the Elohim. And there's a very important subject, which I didn't even touch on here. Well, I touched a little bit on it, but the subject is the sons of God, because in the Hebrew Bible, as also in old religious texts, there is an idea in the Bible, in the Old Testament Bible, there are many different kinds of entities. There are spirits, which we call ghosts or spirits. Then there's disembodied spirits. Disembodied spirits means that there were spirits which used to have a body, and then their body died, and so their spirit went back into the spirit world, which is the spirits of humans who have died, but they are disembodied spirits because they used to have a body. Well, that's not the same as ghosts or spirit entities in the Bible, because the spirit entities in the Bible were created spirits, and they never had a body, as opposed to people, when they died, their spirit goes out. So now there's two kinds of spirits, the ones who were always a spirit, and then the ones that used to have a body. And so now we got two kinds of spirits. Then you have something called the Watchers in the Old Testament. The Watchers is a different term for a different kind of spirit entity. Then you have another term, which is, and the most important one, is sons of God. Sons of God are not angels. Sons of God are the offspring of the mating between the extraterrestrials who came here and the women who were already here, and they had offspring. And the Bible doesn't call them children. It says that the aliens or the Elohim, the gods who came here, and after they created Adam, they began to see that what they had created was beautiful. The women were gorgeous. So they started thinking too much about what they have created and started taking on the women and procreating with them. And it doesn't say what the women gave birth to. The Bible says, and the women gave birth to children. No, it doesn't say that in Hebrew. It just says that the women gave birth, period. And it doesn't say what they gave birth to. Well, if these were extraterrestrials from another world who looked like us, and they crossbreed with the human creatures that they had created, and those creatures were giving birth to something that was extraterrestrial and human, and hominid, it was that's why today I think that we are half human, half man, and half spirit. Because there's half, and the Apostle Paul says that, there's a war going on in the flesh of mankind between the spirit and the flesh. Why? Because the flesh represents the ish, the creatures that were already here, as opposed to when the angels came here, or the spirits, or whoever they are, came here and recreated us. Now there's half of us is from them, the Anunnaki, and the other half is from the ish, the creatures that were already here. Well, that's true, because all humans, half of us are just animals, but the other half creates beautiful music and lasers and goes to the moon and has beautiful art and can do wonderful and great things and be very spiritual. And at the same time, you can get drunk and go out and kill somebody, because that's the human part of us. So there's two things going on inside of us. The war between what the extraterrestrials put into us and the normal animalistic thing that we were before they got here. So that's what I'm saying the human race is today. We are an intervention and our natural evolution. Strange stuff.
Thank you.
You talk about being aware of a religion or kind of being wary of religion, but this information is in the Bible. How do you
The
concile
Bible
that?
is not the work of a holy priesthood writing holy scriptures. The Bible is the work of people who have studied all the ancient cults of the world, all the ancient religions of the world, the ancient hidden mysteries of the world. And when you begin to look at the actual history of the Old Testament and the history of the ancient Hebrews, you will find there was no ancient history of the Hebrews, that the Old Testament most likely was put together by some very, very highly intelligent priests and writers, probably during, I would say, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th century A.D. I do not believe that Judaism is a B.C. religion. I don't think there was an ancient Jerusalem, an ancient Judaism. I believe that the Bible has, as we know it, the Old Testament Bible, the Jewish Old Testament, probably has something to do with the Hanseatic League, a German league of highly intelligent priests, clergymen, commercial ventures, bankers. It's called the Hanseatic League. And out of the Hanseatic League in Europe began a whole new religious concept called Judaism. And we begin to see a whole new religion being developed. But that's in the AD. And as far as I'm concerned, looking at all the reference works of the world, there was no BC Judaism. There was no ancient Jerusalem. There was no ancient Hebrew people. None of it ever existed. But I'm thinking that whoever these wise men were that put together this Bible and wrote it in such a way as to encode secret things into it, anyone who studied the Bible knows that almost 99% of everything that's in the Old Testament was already in existence in ancient cultures, the old Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Phoenician Canaanites, the Assyrians, especially the Medo-Persians. But all of these ancient stories that were, and I believe these ancient people with their ancient stories were not writing for Hollywood. They're just telling you what they saw. They're just telling you, the Sumerians were just telling you what they were experiencing. They were not writing for television. And so the people who wrote the Old Testament took all of those ancient stories and put them together and started getting a consensus of what the ancient people were saying and what was really going on, and then they translated it into a new book for us called the Bible. So I have the highest of respect for the Bible and what's in it, because I understand it didn't come from Yahweh and some wonderful God. No, it's a collection of all the ancient wisdom of the world that these people, 500 to 700 years ago, were very intelligent people, and they were getting a consensus of all the ancient writings of the world, from the Egyptians, the ancient Hindus, and put together a whole new story based on all of that ancient stuff. So that's why I have the highest of respect for the Bible, because it's an incredible collection of ancient wisdom. And it's telling you something, but like the rabbis have told me, it's all encoded. It's encoded. It's not on the surface. You need to know what the rabbis were really saying. And what these people were really saying, not what you thought they were saying.
So religion is basically using that as the good information and then distorting it in order to control.
That's right, to keep control.
Thank you.
There are rabbis who, and I've sat with some really interesting rabbis who tell me, because I confronted them with a lot of this, they said, well, you're right. And I said, no, I want to know, was Judaism actually a BC religion? They said, well, I mean, it's just a story. It's just a story. And I said, I know it's just a story, but I'm asking you, was there any legitimate history in it? No, there wasn't. And now there are the top archaeologists and the top paleontologists in Egypt. One is named Finkelstein, and the other one, I can't remember his name. They have come out with a book about 2 years ago. They were the top professors in Israel. And they wrote a book together called Unearthing the Bible, in which they said, and they are the best of the best in Israel, and they said none of the stories in the Old Testament were history. None of them. There was no Moses, and there was no crossing of the Red Sea, and there was no Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All of these stories were stories of the ancient world. that were remolded into a new story for a new time and a new people, but all of it's based on the ancient stuff. So that means that what you're reading is not necessarily nonsense and crap. No, it's based on ancient, real knowledge that the ancient peoples had, but it's a new story for a new time. That's why the Bible's called the greatest story ever told. It's a story. And as, you know, and so if you understand it's a story and it's based on older, more ancient, writings, I have the highest of admiration for the Bible because it's a great collection. And at this point, I'd like to also say, I have an all-encompassing fear and appreciation for God. I have no problem with the concept of a divine presence in the universe that is overshadowing all life. There is the differences of God. Are you talking about aliens who came here who were very clever and created you? Or are you talking about a higher power in the universe that's even over them? Well, from all I've gathered, from what people have said in books and lectures I've heard, that they have been abducted by these aliens who look like us, who look like Nordics. Well, you're talking about people who look human. But they were extraterrestrial. Well, as the Bible says, same thing. But I have the highest of admiration for the idea, the concept of a higher power in the universe that men have called God. I don't have any problem with that idea at all. It's these silly religions, which are corporations and businesses, are making billions of dollars off of poor people's ignorance. That's what I have a problem with. God, I don't have any problem with God. I don't mess with that. I don't even think I'd be alive today if it wasn't for God, so.
Hi. Which Anunnaki do you think are behind the Illuminati? Is it like Enlil or Marduk? And what's happened to Enki and Nimrod?
I'm not really sure about any of that. I was very close friends with Zecharia Sitchin, and I was in business with him, and we talked about this stuff quite a bit. I sent Zecharia Sitchin to 5 countries, and I helped get his books published. And he and I were very close friends for a long time. We were in business together. And I've asked him a lot of these questions. He knew the answers to them, but he would never give me any straight answer. So I would say that I'm not sure about this subject. Only thing I am sure about is that we're not talking about one glorious God who created Adam and Eve. We're talking about extraterrestrials who look like us. And of that, there's no doubt in my mind about, because the people who are running this planet have already proven, they've proven over and over again, they don't care about the human race. They don't care about human life. Why? Because they're not human. They're not like us. They're not human. They don't care. They have to kill millions of children in another country. They just don't care because they created us. So, we are like chattel. I mean, in law, humans are called chattel property, meaning we're cattle. And so, naturally, a farmer or a rancher will take care of his cattle. Why? Because he can sell them and you can have hamburgers. And so you have to take care of your cattle. And so you give them a place to live and water to drink and food and take care of them and give them entertainment. That doesn't mean you love them. No, it means you're going to feed off of them. You're going to sell them at the stock market. You're going to use them for your political purposes. So I don't think the people who are leading the country and leading the world today are human. I think they're demonic, they're depraved, they're evil, and probably the most powerful, evil, demonic, and depraved of all is in the U.S. I think we're being led by the most evil people in the world. And again, I don't think they're human.
Hi, I was reading a book on symbols. And it said that religions that use the symbol of the cross and the crown are religions that are run by the Illuminati. Is that any kind of relevance at all to that?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I've been talking about that for years.
Oh, really?
What I would tell you about that, she's talking about the religious symbol that's used in Christianity of a cross inside of a crown, the cross and the crown. Charles Tess Russell used the cross and the crown back in 1871 when he started the IBSA, which became known as Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses was started by an organization back in 1871 that used the cross and the crown. all the Protestant Christianity uses the cross and the crown. Plus, some of the facets of the Catholic Church you still use the cross and the crown. But the cross and the crown, Christians think the cross represents the cross of Christ and the crown that Jesus will wear as king. No, the cross and the crown has to do with Masonic order. It has to do with a very ancient orders coming out of Rome and the days of the Caesars, when the cross and the crown was used as an occult symbol for secret societies that were beginning to come up with this new idea of Christianity. And so it's a very interesting subject on occult symbols and how they're being used today. They don't mean what you think they do.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, incidentally, the very word church, you know how many people go to church every day and have no idea where the word comes from and what it means? Church comes from a Scottish word, kirk, like Captain Kirk of the good ship Enterprise. You know, well, that's what a religion is. It's an enterprise. But church is an English word that's based on a Scottish word, kirk, K-E-R-K or K-I-R-K. And Kirk is directly connected to an ancient goddess in the Middle East called Circe, or Circe. She was called Mother Circe, or later on in Scotland, Mother Kirk, or later on in England, Mother Church. Church is Circe in Scotland. Circe is Kirk in Scottish, becomes Circe in the ancient Middle East. She was a goddess. And she was a goddess in the Greek mythology who was able to hypnotize people and bring them into her home, shut the door, and take their minds away from them and eat them and live off of them. And so this is what Mother Circe has done, Mother Church. Yeah, the church takes people in with magic, brings them in, locks the door behind, takes their minds so they can't read, they can't think, and all they know how to do is bow down to the man with the fish head. But it's true, that's what the Pope wears. It's called the Pope's mitre. It's a head of a fish, which goes back to the worship of Dagon, the fish god of Rome. So all of this is all ancient stuff coming from somewhere out there. And these people are real serious evil.
Well, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you what you knew about the report from Iron Mountain that JFK requisitioned in 1961 with the experts, and then that came out
I remember.
Talking about secret societies and relating that to biblical phrases, and then bringing in the New World Order and just how they were going to dismantle America, collapse our Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and take away.
Well, they're not going to do that. It's already done.
It's done, right? But I mean, I'm just wondering what you. I know it is. It is.
Yeah, I've talked to too many. I've been all around the world. And I've talked to too many people, and very important people that you have no idea in the world that I know. That at the very top of this government, that were personal friends of mine, and I've sat and talked with them in private. Advisors to the President of the United States, top of the line people that I've been able to meet and became friends with, and they allowed me to talk with them in private. And so it's just my subjective opinion, but it's based on the conversation with many, many people over the years, that there is no hope to save America or the human race. I was on a panel in Los Angeles about a year ago, and George Norrie was hosting it. And while we were up there, I saw a man come in with a three-piece suit. He looked government the moment he walked in. And I watched him in the back of the room. And just about the time we were going to end the question and answer period, he walked over to the other corner of the room. I watched him walk over to the side so that when we come down off the platform, we're facing him. And as I came down off the platform, he looked at me and said, come here. You, come here. So I walked over to him, and he opened his wallet. It's a long, oblong wallet, and handed it to me. He didn't say a word. He just handed me the wallet. And I opened it up, and it was 2 badges from government, very impressive organizations in government. And I'm not going to tell you what, but it's higher than CIA. And 2 badges and 2 IDs in this heavy wallet. And he handed it to me. And I looked at it for a few moments. I studied it for a few moments. And then I looked at him, I said, very impressive. He said, it's real. And he said, I've been sent here. The government sends me to all kinds of conferences just to listen to see what people know and what they don't know and what they're talking about. We just want to see what's going on. And he said, but I was told particularly to listen to you. And that's why I'm here. He said, I would, you know, he told me some interesting stuff. He said one thing in particular I thought was very significant. He said, my higher-ups have told me that they like what you do, that they don't have any problem with what you do. They see you as a good guy trying to help your fellow man. So they don't, he said, I don't think you're going to have any problem with government. They know who you are. They know what you're trying to do. They're just more interested to see who's going to listen to you. You know, they're just interested to see who's smart enough to listen to you.
Interesting. So with all you know and all you've been told, then the educational value of what you're doing is being conceded as being the most valuable?
It's my feeling. It's just my subjective opinion. But I think that cosmically speaking, I don't think there is any hope for the human race. Why? I didn't say not individuals. I'm not talking about individuals. I think individuals are being called out from the mass, but I don't think the masses have a chance in hell to get away from what's coming. And the reason why is because trying to change the human race and educate people today and the kind of world we live in is like trying to empty the Pacific with a cup, because you know, it's a huge tsunami of ignorance and stupidity, self-centered, egotistical, know-it-all, pompous, arrogant stupidity of the human race that wants to hear nothing of truth. All they are interested in is important things that have to do with life, like football and basketball and the movie stars getting married and all that nonsense. Now, as long as the human race loves to be deceived by their masters, not realizing their bodies are actually security on the New York Stock Exchange for the banking industry, and the banks are not the powers of this world, it's the insurance companies behind the banks. And the reason why the insurance companies are behind the banks is because of the 14th Amendment. And once you understand the 14th Amendment's connection to insurance companies, and insurance companies' connection to the banks, and you understand that the government we got now is not the same government we started with in 1776. It's a privately owned company. It's a private corporation. Once you understand how all this stuff works in relation to religion, the Catholic Church, the Jewish religion, Islam, and how it's all financially behind the scenes connected, and the whole world is being played for a fool. So I'm saying it's about time. I believe it's an idea whose time has come for the whole human race to wake up and find out we've been had. And the only real hope is individuals being called out to stand on your own and start doing your own. I would suggest everyone should talk directly to the Spirit, directly to God. Don't go through any religion or any man-made system. All you have to do is talk to the Spirit, and the Spirit hears you. And then ask the Spirit after you've talked to the Spirit and tell it what you want and tell it what you need, and you're talking to the Spirit. Then ask the Spirit to show me that you've heard me. Give me a sign that you're hearing me, and watch what happens.
I was thinking about that line, I guess, from the Bible that says, what profit a man if he gain the entire world but lose his soul or the kingdom of heaven? And I started out wanting to ask you what you thought of that, even if that concept in your mind exists. But it's gotten a little bit modified because you've drawn the distinction between them and us, those who created us versus us. We're not them, they're not us. And essentially you've said that those who rule us, who run the show, so to speak, are not really us, aren't fully human, or they represent them. And I guess one of the things that I was thinking, and I would love to hear your thoughts about what profit a man, but can they spend our money? I mean, I'm a little confused because if...
Ask the question again.
Well, in other words, obviously the same, if they're people, we'll call them people,
yeah,
that started this, that created us in their image. Unless they live forever, they're not around anymore. So maybe they're just observers from somewhere else, and they have intermediaries that are running us, for example?
Well, yeah, that could be. That's what I think, what the UFOs, my opinion, is a lot of, not all of it, but a lot of the UFO activity, which is not ours, and we got a lot of UFO stuff ourselves, the humans have. But if there is anything out there that's not of human origin, which I think there is a lot of, I think it's probably them. And they are, and there are probably other entities out in the universe that know about this situation here we've got on this earth, and they're coming here to see what the story is all about too. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there are entities out there who have heard of something going on this planet called Earth, and they're coming down here to see what these creatures are like. And how, they heard that we were created in the image and likeness of the entities, and they're coming down here to watch and see what's going on. Because they know something else is getting ready to happen. I think that there's wars going on between extraterrestrials as to who owns us, and who's going to own us. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that's what some of the UFO and alien stuff is people coming here from other places to see us.
And just for the fun of it, because my question really wasn't meant to be flip about can they spend our money, own us for what purpose? In other words, if you own something, or you own a business, or you own the productive capacity of some person, it's for a purpose.
Yeah.
So when I ask, can they spend our money, I'm sort of wondering, do you think that it's above the physical realm? Like, for example, David Icke suggests that it's negative energy, it's fear. It's what they feed off of.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask it.
I'm not really sure how to answer that, because I don't think I really understand the question, probably. Go on.
Hello. In some of the Gnostic texts, you have the notion that the creators, plural, were hideous, horrifying, monsters from the abyss. Just from your reading of the Bible and the various interpretations of it, I've heard it said that Satan, the accuser, was perhaps on our side, and Yahweh, the vengeful oppressor, was in fact Satan. And you can flip it. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that.
Well, the Gnostics say that Yahweh, the Hebrew God, is Satan, and that Yahweh is the demiurge, the dark force, Darth Vader. That's what the Gnostics, the ancient Gnostics, taught, that Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, was like Darth Vader, the evil one. And the Gnostics are very important people, and Gnosticism is a very important religion. The Christians like to put it down, but the Christians put down anything that has anything to do with reading and studying. But I think that there's a bigger story here. The man I like to listen to on this subject, and there's quite a few of them, but is Jay Winder. Jay Winder is an incredibly brilliant guy and fascinating to listen to. And also Lloyd Pye. Lloyd Pye is extraordinarily good on this subject of how the aliens created us. Lloyd Pye, so you need to know about Lloyd Pye and Jay Winder. I think we're going to have to go there. Telling me we're through. Thank you again for being here.